Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Big Akar Ahmed and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about a very important day in Islamic history, and this is the day of Ghadir Khumm. And on this day, this was a day that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, had gathered all of his companions, all of his friends, all of his followers outside of the city of Mecca before he went ahead and took his final pilgrimage and to Hajj, and he went ahead and gave this speech. During the speech, he announced many different things that have held weight, and many things Sunni and Shia people agree on, and many things Sunni and Shia people go ahead and disagree on. Now we're going to go ahead and get into that really quickly. We're going to go ahead and watch a video that we had reacted to before. It explains things so well. It is an animation that lays everything out between Sunni and Shia history when it comes to specific topics and subjects like so. So we're going to go ahead and jump into that and watch a minute or two of that just so you guys can understand what is Ghadir Khumm, what was talked about there, what happened, why is there a Sunni and Shia disagreement on this historical date, and then what happened exactly right after the Prophet passed away. Peace and blessings be upon him. Now, on the day of Ghadir Khumm, a couple things that did happen was the final surah of the Quran was revealed. So the final surah by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the Holy Quran to be finalized was revealed, and the Prophet Muhammad went ahead and recited it to his audience there. Now, the surah that was revealed specifically says that today I have finalized your religion. And not I finalized the Quran or I finished the Quran. I finalized your religion. Your religion is perfect now. As in, there's nothing that comes after this. So everything that happened from this meeting and this day forward, after this day and after this meeting forward, is an innovation. It's not a part of the religion of Islam. Everything that happened before this is the religion of Islam. It is a part of the Sunnah of the Prophet, is a part of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's word. Now, another thing that was talked about before the final surah of the Quran, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, told the people that the angel of death had come to visit him and his time was near. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, went ahead and announced that he was leaving the people with two things, two very weighty, heavy things. And one of those things was going to be the Holy Quran, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the second thing was going to be his Ahlul Bayt. Imagine telling the people that you were going to leave them two weighty things, one thing and the other thing, one thing better than the other, right? And they go together. They're like one with each other, right? And that one thing is his family members, his daughter, his grandchildren, and so forth. And the other thing is going to be the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, as Shia, we believe in the family of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, has the best examples to Islam, the best examples of what the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, lived, walked, talked, and did. His sunnah is preserved 100% through his family members, through his Ahlul Bayt, not through his companions, not through his friends, not through leaders that came hundreds of years later, not through hadith writers who came hundreds of years later. And this is what the Shia do believe. Now, the Sunni do not believe that. The Sunni believe that the power was passed on to companions of the Prophet, and then it went through like a voting system, kind of like how America works now in a democratic state. The last time I checked, I don't believe that Islam is a democratic union. I believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained something, and then that thing is ordained, and then there is a power, someone who is placed into power, like a prophet, or a caliph, like the Mahdi will come at the end of time, who is divinely chosen by God Almighty. And that is how Islam works. That is how it's always worked. That is how it's worked with Abraham and his family. When we say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad and wa ali Muhammad, we are in our prayer 5 times a day. We are blessing the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and his family, his Ahlul Bayt, peace and blessings be upon him. Not his wives, not his friends or his companions, his family. And when we say his family, we're talking about his daughter, we're talking about his grandchildren, and so forth. Now, the last thing that is causing the split or the division between the Sunni and the Shia here that we very much disagree on is going to go ahead and be when he raised Imam Ali's hand. If you don't know who Imam Ali is, alayhi salam, Imam Ali is the cousin of the Prophet and the husband of the Prophet's daughter. So the Prophet's daughter went ahead and married Imam Ali, alayhi salam. And this is a marriage that was divinely chosen. And the Shia believe this. And the Shia believe they're divinely chosen as the Mahdi or the savior that will come with Nabi Isa, Jesus, peace and blessings be upon him, will come from this family. He was divinely chosen to come from that bloodline, to come from the Ahlul Bayt. So I find it very interesting here as well. I'm just going to make this point that the Sunni don't believe that the Ahlul Bayt, the family of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was divinely chosen, but the Shia do. But they both believe that their savior and their Messiah figure, right, that's going to come with Jesus, is going to come from the family of the Prophet, is going to come from Fatima Zahra and Imam Ali. It's very interesting that their savior is divinely chosen from that bloodline, but the two people who started the bloodline weren't divinely chosen by God. It's if it was an accident. Now, we're going to go ahead and get into this right now, but the biggest thing that's here that there was a disagreement on, and why this date is so, argued upon, is when the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, raised the hand of his cousin Imam Ali alayhi salam and said he is the next leader. He is the master, right? Now, there's a big problem with this because we're going to go ahead and get into it, but he used the word Mawla, and Mawla can mean a lot of different things depending on the context of it. Now, the Sunnis believe that Imam Ali alayhi salam's hand was raised in front of thousands and thousands, the whole entire Muslim ummah, so the Prophet can just call him his friend, get off the stage, go home, and then get sick and end up passing away. Now, the Shia believe that he raised his hand on that stage to go ahead and announce him as the next leader, the next caliph, the next person to lead the Muslim ummah, because the word Mawla also means leader, okay? So we're going to go ahead and jump into this video. Maybe it'll describe and explain this a little bit better for you guys, and then we'll go ahead and compare and contrast the Sunni Shia, confusion here.
But who was going to succeed aging Muhammad? And this is the root of the split in Islam. As one would expect, Sunni and Shia sources offer different interpretations. On the way back from his last pilgrimage, Muhammad gave a sermon at the Ghadir Khumm oasis, took Ali by his hand, and proclaimed that anyone who has me as his Mawla has Ali as his Mawla. Shia theology believes that in Ghadir Khumm, the Prophet designated Ali as his successor by calling him Mawla, a polysemous Arabic word with several meanings, one of which is leader or master.
So the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, grabbed his cousin's hand, raised his hand in front of the whole entire Muslim ummah, the whole Muslim world, after he is about to finalize the Quran, after he just made an announcement saying that he's leaving them with two things, the Holy Quran and his family. He raises one of those family members' hands and then says, anyone who takes me as their Mawla, leader, has Ali as their Mawla, has Ali as their leader. So I find this very interesting that there's a mix on words here, because the word Mawla also means friend. So why would the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, as a Sunni, as a Shia, as a human being, I don't care if you're atheist at this point, we're going to use process of elimination. We're going to use our brain for a second. Why would the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, announce the final revelation of the Quran, announce that the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his family are the two most important things that he's going to leave you, raise his cousin's hand and say, this is my friend, in front of the whole entire Muslim world, when he announced he was about to pass away and die? It's very, very interesting that they don't see this clear hadith and story that is in Shia and Sunni literature, which we know he said Mawla, we know what he said, and it's just thrown away. They take it as him saying friend, which he'll describe right here.
Sunnis believe that the Ghadir Khumm episode was merely a proclamation of affinity of the Prophet to his loyal companion and son-in-law, and interpret the word Mawla using its second definition, a friend. Another important episode in the succession dispute.
You don't, like I said before, you don't just take someone on one of the most important days of Islamic history and you're finalizing the Quran, you're doing all this stuff, you left 280 things, the Quran and the family, you announced that you're going to die soon, the angel of death came to you, and you go ahead and raise your cousin's hand to just tell everyone he's your friend. No, duh, he's his friend. He's his right-hand man. He's lived with him his whole entire life. Imam Ali alayhi salam's father Abu Talib went ahead and raised the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. So it's kind of crazy to me that Sunni literature actually has tricked the masses, and I say tricked, I'm going to say tricked, has tricked mainstream masses into believing that the Prophet raised Imam Ali's hand and goes, "Look at my friend," in front of the whole Muslim world when he announced he was going to pass away. But just all, sarcasm or anything aside, that just mind-boggling to me. And I'm not saying that because I'm Shia and I'm biased. I'm saying that because I use a little bit of my brain power and process of elimination and common sense, and I know the character of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, to know that he didn't just raise Imam Ali alayhi salam's hand and go, "This is my friend," and then they all went home and went to sleep. That never happened. So that is the, Sunni literature, and the Shia literature goes ahead and says that he was announced as Mawla. He was announced as a leader. If you take me as your leader, you take Imam Ali alayhi salam as your leader. You take my family, the Ahlul Bayt, the people of the house, and the Holy Quran as the two weighty things that I have left for you. These are the two most important things for you. I'm going to pass away soon. I mean, I don't know how much more clear it gets, but it is what it is. We'll go ahead and finish this off right here and see what
between the Sunni and Shia theologies is connected to the so-called pen and paper episode. This is considered a genuine hadith, as both Sunni and Shia theologians accept it, but interpret it differently. In Islam, a hadith is a story on the life of Muhammad with religious and legal messages for the Muslim community, and according to this one, a few days before his death, Muhammad asked his companions to bring him pen and paper so that he could write a statement in order to prevent the Ummah from going astray after his death. But one of Muhammad's closest companions, Umar, said, "The Prophet is seriously ill, and we have got Allah's book with us, and that is sufficient for us." This led to a loud dispute in the room in the presence of Muhammad, who got unhappy and called everyone to leave. It is still unclear what the Prophet wanted to write. Shias claim that he intended to designate Ali as his successor, but there's no way to determine this. According to Sunnis, the Prophet did not explicitly designate a successor and left it for the Islamic community to decide. There are other events which Sunnis and Shia base their claims on regarding the succession, but in short, following Muhammad's death in 632, the Ummah did not have a consensus on a new leader.
Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and pause it right there. We just heard about the pen and paper incident, okay? Now, if you guys want to go ahead and hear a full breakdown on this pen and paper incident, I went ahead and debunked a video from, I believe his name is Farid. Farid reacts or responds. I went ahead and did a debunked video on his video to Sayyid Ammar. It's a full breakdown of the whole pen and paper incident with Ammar and the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and what happened in Sunni literature. Reading from Sahih Muslim, reading from Bukhari. So you can go ahead and check that out. I'll link that down below. And I'll also link the full video of the Sunni Shia, 19-minute reaction video that I did and talking about the split of Sunni and Shia Islam down below as well if you want to go ahead and watch that. Now, with the pen and paper incident, no matter what happened, no matter how it happened, no matter if the Sunni and Shia disagree or agree on the pen and paper incident, that does not change the day of Ghadir Khumm. That does not change what was said and what was done on that day, right? Now, before the Prophet Muhammad went ahead and passed away, he asked the room full of his companions, "Can someone get me a pen and paper so we can write something down so that the Ummah, the Muslim community, does not go astray, so that you guys do not divide." So you don't divide into sects. So you don't divide from friends and companions. So you don't divide after I die. Please give me a pen and paper so I can write something down. Ammar, one of the Prophet's closest companions, denied the Prophet the pen and paper. He told him that, "Hey, you're too ill. The book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's good enough. We heard it at Ghadir Khumm. You told us the religion's finalized. All we need is the Quran. The Quran is good enough. We don't need to hear what you have to say. We don't want to hear what you have to write." And this is what he told the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. The Prophet, basically a discussion ended up happening in the room. They started arguing. They were like, "What do you mean, Ammar? You can't tell the Prophet no. Why would you tell the Prophet no?" And Ammar and them were talking about the Prophet being basically disoriented because he was dying. He was laying on his deathbed. He was disoriented. He didn't want the Prophet to say something wrong or mess up. So this is an incident that even within Sunni and Shia literature, looking at the incident with Umar and the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, with the pen and paper incident, it doesn't look good for Umar, Sunni or Shia. He called the Prophet disoriented in the head. He refused to give the Prophet a pen and paper, and he caused an argumentation in the room with the companions when the Prophet said, bring me a pen and paper so you guys don't argue, so you guys don't divide and go astray. He went astray right in front of his face. So I find this incident very distasteful, and if you want a full breakdown of it, you can go ahead and check the link down below.
While Ali took charge of the arrangements of the funeral, a meeting to decide the successor took place in Medina. Ali and two other prominent companions of the Prophet, Abu Bakr and Umar, were not present, and deliberations took place without them. In fact, the majority of those present were the Muslims residing in Medina, who welcomed Muhammad or were converted later, while very few of those who went on a hijrah from Mecca to Medina with Muhammad were there. Abu Bakr and Umar rushed to the meeting and took charge of the process in Ali's absence. The former was one of the first converts to Islam, Muhammad's father-in-law through his daughter Aisha. Deeply respected by modern Sunnis, he was very rich and contributed a lot to the cause of Islam and was arguably one of the main contenders for leadership. Umar was also a close companion of Muhammad, also his father-in-law through his daughter Hafsa, known for his zealous protection of the Prophet. He is known as a just, intelligent and wise person in the Sunni tradition. After a heated debate, Umar...
So before we go ahead and continue, notice how Umar and Abu Bakr, the two closest companions to the Prophet, the two people who are buried next to the Prophet, left and right side of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, weren't even there for the funeral of the Prophet. They weren't there to make it happen. Imam Ali alayhi salam, the Prophet's cousin, stayed back, and he was the one that took care of the death of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. While Umar and Abu Bakr were somewhere else having elections for who was going to be the next leader. And what I find very, very sick, when I ended up going to Mecca a couple months ago, seeing Abu Bakr and Umar buried next to the Prophet, and then the Prophet's grandchildren and children are just scattered around Medina somewhere, scattered around the Middle East somewhere. It made me so sick to my stomach to see it, because this is what the family was doing. They were attending the Prophet's body. They were attending the Prophet's death. They were attending the Prophet's funeral, while Abu Bakr and Umar were running around making power moves, trying to get elected as caliph through a democratic vote somewhere else in the land of Arabia. So I find this also very distasteful, and this is something that is also in Sunni and Shia literature.
Umar was able to persuade those present to choose Abu Bakr as the successor, the caliph, a ruler of the Muslim Ummah. Ali was later presented with the fact of succession, and along with a number of other companions, initially refused to accept the decision as it was taken without him, while he was one of the strongest candidates. Umar embarked on the process of persuading or forcing the companions to offer fealty to Abu Bakr. He personally came to Ali's house to persuade him. The events which followed have been the subject of much dispute, as the...
Alright, so we're going to go ahead and just stop it right there. Now, the next part he's going to get into is him confronting Imam Ali alayhi salam, telling Umar coming to the house, telling him to pledge allegiance to Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr and Umar, while Imam Ali alayhi salam was attending the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him's funeral, taking care of the body and in the family, of course, Abu Bakr and Umar ran off and ended up having this election. And getting enough votes and getting all of these people to go ahead and vote Abu Bakr as the first Muslim caliph after the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, passed away. Now, this was something that took place without the Imam Ali alayhi salam present, right? So imagine like having a vote on who's the best basketball player, LeBron James, Steph Curry, or Kevin Durant. And LeBron James isn't there, and Steph Curry and Kevin Durant ran away somewhere and got all of the votes, but you could only vote for them two. There was no LeBron James in the question. Obviously, LeBron James would end up winning that vote if you voted if you put it across all America. Now, Islam doesn't work on votes. So regardless, if the whole entire world voted for Abu Bakr or the whole entire world voted for Umar, that's not how it works. Islam isn't a democracy. Islam isn't the United States. This idea of they were voted in is kind of ridiculous to me when the Prophet was there. Obviously, it's funny that the whole entire Sunni world has this idea that the Prophet just died and didn't think to tell anyone or give any direction on who should lead the Muslim Ummah after he went ahead and passed away. Like, he just left it up to everyone to argue, everyone to fight for the religion, to divide into sects. Like, he didn't know. Like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't warn him. I find it very interesting a lot of the time when I talk to Muslim brothers and sisters, Sunni and Shia like how much they downplay the Prophet, how much they downplay what a prophet is and who a prophet is. It's crazy to me, like, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, or Prophet Jesus, peace and blessings be upon him, or Prophet Abraham, peace and blessings. Are you guys not aware of how far ahead of the curve they are than you? Like, do you think that God's going to leave the whole entire Muslim Ummah just confused? That's not what happened. So it's very important to go ahead, deep dive into history, deep dive and understand who specific people were. Who is Abu Bakr? Who is Umar? Who is Imam Ali alayhi salam? Who are his sons? Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Who is Fatima Zahra, the daughter of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and his family? Who is the whole Ahl al-Bayt? Who is your Mahdi? Who are your saviors? Who is your Messiah? These are very, very important things to go ahead, dive into the history, dive into these specific days like Ghadir Khumm, and really, really, really understand what happened. Now, from a Shia perspective, what we see is on the day of Ghadir Khumm, the Quran was finalized. The Prophet left his Quran and his family as the preservation for the Muslims. He raised his cousin's hand, Imam Ali alayhi salam, and he said, if you take me as a leader, you take him as a leader. Shortly after, he was presented with the incident of the pen and paper, where he asked all of his companions, give me a pen and paper so I can write something down to where you guys don't go astray, you guys don't argue, you guys don't fight, you guys don't go into a disagreement. Muhammad refused this pen and paper to the Prophet, caused an argument in front of the Prophet with the companions, called the Prophet delusional. Everyone got kicked out of the Prophet's home. Days later, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, passed away and died. And then all of the divisioning and the splitting and the historical differences start really taking place here. And this is where Abu Bakr and Umar went ahead and had a vote somewhere else without Imam Ali, as Imam Ali was attending to the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, death, and his family, as Abu Bakr and Umar were chasing a caliphship without Imam Ali as one of the candidates to be voted for, without Imam Ali there, without any of this taking place with the Prophet's family. This is very, very sad. This is very sick. Without the friend of the Prophet who was announced in front of thousands of people, they went ahead and had this vote for caliphship. And Imam Ali alayhi salam, through all of his patience, became the fourth caliph after a very, very long time. And Imam Ali alayhi salam refused to pledge allegiance to the first caliph, Abu Bakr, and through force was he to pledge allegiance to the first caliph, Abu Bakr. And this is what I wanted to go ahead and talk about today. This day is the day I want to go ahead and talk about today. Go ahead, ask your scholars, go ahead and ask your sheikhs, go ahead and ask your parents, go ahead and ask your brothers and sisters and cousins, and have these discussions openly online, have these discussions with everyone you could possibly have them with. It's so sad to see that people online just want to argue with each other. They don't want to discuss, they don't want to talk about history, they don't want to open the sources, they don't want to read for themselves. They just want to talk and talk, watch a YouTube video, watch a couple sheikhs talk, watch a lecture or two, and they are the scholar of the Muslim Ummah. They are super Sunni or super Shia, and they're ready to come defend Shiaism or defend Sunniism. And it's so sad to see the Muslim Ummah split the way it is today. It's so sad to see the way Islam has become this mainstream thing that is being pushed by the Western media now at this point, and it's something that is trying to be infiltrated and controlled from the inside out. Most of Islam is preserved, most of Islam is there. The actions of praying and being guided by the divine creator of all things, and fasting and giving to charity and treating your family right, and staying away from sins, and drugs and staying away from, fornication and all these different things. This is what Islam is, and the divine guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always, 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 always what's going to come first. The whole religion of Islam can be changed, infiltrated. The Quran can be, every Quran in the world can be burnt, but there is nothing stronger than the divine guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his believers, for his worshippers, those who get on their prayer rugs 5 times a day and submit themselves to their fullest ability to the Creator. He will never forget them. He will always lead them with or without the Quran, with or without the Prophet. I promise you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will guide you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open your heart and He will protect you. Thank you guys so much for coming today. God bless every single one of you. And until next time, free Palestine, baby.